In the quiet town of Haeseong, 27-year-old Eun Chae-ai receives devastating news that turns her world upside down. She is terminally ill and running out of time. Desperate to escape her miserable life before death catches up to her, Chae-ai begs her stubborn grandmother, Kim Jeon-bok, for money to travel the world. Jeon-bok coldly refuses, crushing Chae-ai's last dream of freedom. While Chae-ai spirals through anger and frustration, an awkward civil servant named Lee Eun-jong crosses paths with her after witnessing her shamelessly stealing a child's ice cream in broad daylight. His co-workers dismiss Chae-ai as a crazy troublemaker and warn him to stay away from her. But something about her strange behavior keeps pulling him in. That same night, a rag picker named Kim Bong-pal stumbles upon a horrifying secret at a nearby dumping yard. After becoming trapped inside a mysterious black slime hidden among the garbage, part of his body begins melting before he collapses unconscious. Days later, Bong-pal vanishes without a trace. As rumors of disappearances spread through Haeseong, an elderly man named Sun Jae-eun storms into City Hall demanding an investigation into the dumping yard. He claims people have been disappearing there for years and warns that similar incidents happened in town 2 decades earlier. But exhausted officials ignore his warnings, dismissing him as paranoid. Eun-jong reluctantly handles the complaint and refuses to interfere, explaining that the dumping yard is private property. Furious, Jae-eun threatens him before leaving. Yet before disappearing, the old man quietly warns Eun-jong that something terrible is happening in Haeseong. That very same day, members of a mysterious religious cult abduct the old man and drag him away. Meanwhile, Chae-ai decides she has had enough of waiting to die. Determined to flee to Mount Kilimanjaro even without money, she asks her longtime friend Kong Robin for help. But Robin is drowning in debt himself after being forced to repair his apartment because his landlord refused to fix it. Still refusing to give up, Chae-ai begins secretly preparing for her escape. During a shopping trip, she unexpectedly runs into Eun-jong at a hardware store, where both become suspicious of each other after noticing the bizarre survival equipment in their carts. Things get even stranger when Eun-jong spots Chae-ai struggling with a suspiciously heavy suitcase. Already shaken by the missing person's warnings, he becomes convinced she might be a serial killer hiding a body. In a panic, he grabs the suitcase and forces it open in public only to discover it is stuffed with ordinary clothes. Humiliated, Eun-jong awkwardly helps her repack everything while Chae-ai mocks him mercilessly and promises to demand compensation later. Elsewhere, Jae-eun struggles with his own miserable family life. His controlling wife constantly belittles him, blaming him for their failing flower business and refusing every attempt he makes to improve their lives. Even his daughter avoids him out of embarrassment. Desperate for money, Jae-eun and Robin eventually agree to help Chae-ai with a ridiculous plan, staging her fake kidnapping to trick Jeon-bok into paying ransom money. The trio films a fake hostage video with Chae-ai tied to a chair, joking and arguing through the entire thing. Then suddenly, Chae-ai stops breathing. Panic erupts as Jae-eun and Robin realize she has actually died. At the same time, Jeon-bok senses something is wrong and secretly asks retired detective Gu Jun-mo to search for her missing granddaughter. Terrified of being blamed for murder, Jae-eun convinces Robin to help dump Chae-ai's body at the same mysterious dumping yard connected to Bong-pal's disappearance. But just as they arrive, they run straight into Eun-jong, who immediately becomes suspicious and demands to inspect the wheelbarrow they are hiding. In the middle of the struggle, disaster strikes. The wheelbarrow tips over, sending Chae-ai's corpse rolling directly into the same black slime that swallowed Bong-pal earlier. As Robin and Jae-eun desperately try to block Eun-jong's view, both men accidentally fall into the slime themselves. Moments later, Chae-ai's body suddenly vanishes without a trace. Completely horrified, Eun-jong calls the police and accuses the 2 men of attempting to dump a corpse. But when officers arrive at the scene, they stare at him in confusion. Because standing silently behind them is Chae-ai herself, alive. As all 3 men freeze in shock, a flashback reveals the truth. Earlier that day, Eun-jong secretly used mysterious supernatural powers to protect Chae-ai from being injured, hinting that the strange slime, the disappearances, and the people of Haeseong may all be connected to something far more terrifying than anyone imagined. Eun-jong cannot shake the horrifying image burned into his mind. He saw Chae-ai dead with his own eyes. Yet moments later, she was somehow alive again as if nothing had happened. The impossible incident leaves him deeply unsettled, especially when paramedics arrive and Chae-ai immediately pressures Robin and Jae-eun to lie to the police about their fake kidnapping scheme. At the same time, retired detective Jun-mo tracks Chae-ai's phone GPS and calls Jeon-bok with shocking news. Her granddaughter appears to be in Jeju Island. But within seconds, the signal suddenly jumps back to Haeseong, making no sense at all. Suspicious and worried, Jeon-bok searches Chae-ai's room and discovers a mysterious letter addressed to her. Meanwhile, at the police station, Eun-jong grows convinced that Robin and Jae-eun are hiding something far darker than a prank gone wrong. Despite their awkward explanations, he refuses to close the case, certain that what happened at the dumping yard cannot be explained normally. Later at the hospital, Chae-ai, Robin, and Jae-eun secretly discuss her death and miraculous return to life. Terrified of how her strict grandmother might react, Chae-ai begs them never to mention the fake kidnapping in front of Jeon-bok. Unfortunately for them, Jeon-bok overhears everything. Panicking, Chae-ai hides inside a closet, but in the blink of an eye, she suddenly vanishes and reappears at the filming set of a historical drama miles away. Completely confused and terrified, she barely has time to process what happened before she is suddenly transported back into the same closet moments later. The impossible event leaves Chai-an-ai shaken, while Jeonbok begins suspecting something is seriously wrong. Elsewhere, the elderly man kidnapped by the mysterious religious cult starts suffering terrifying hallucinations. Through fragmented memories, he recalls working as a security guard at Hwando Lab decades earlier, where orphan children were secretly experimented on as part of something called the WONDErkid project. The children were injected with dangerous chemicals that granted supernatural abilities. Among those children was patient number 3972, a young boy the old man once saved from a deadly fire. And now, according to him, that boy has returned to Haeseong. In the present day, Eun-jong wakes from a disturbing nightmare connected to those same memories. It is finally revealed that he himself is patient 3972, one of the children who survived the experiments. As pieces begin falling into place, he starts wondering whether Chai-an-ai may somehow be connected to the project too. Meanwhile, Jeonbok receives another shocking revelation at the hospital. The blood clots in Chai-an-ai's feet, proof of her terminal illness, have completely disappeared. After demanding new tests, the doctors confirm the impossible: Chai-an-ai has been fully cured. Overwhelmed by the miracle, Jeonbok secretly contacts a man named Choi Yeon-jun, who is revealed to be the former director of Hwando Lab, now operating behind the scenes of the same dangerous religious cult connected to the disappearances. That night, strange powers begin awakening everywhere. After an argument with Jae-an, Eun-bin accidentally punches a hole through a wall with superhuman strength. Elsewhere, Jae-an suddenly finds his hand stuck to the refrigerator like a magnet while arguing with his wife, leaving him terrified and confused about what is happening to his body. The next morning, Jeonbok tells Chai-an that she is no longer dying and encourages her to finally travel the world. But before allowing her to leave, she insists Chai-an must first earn the right by collecting enough merit points. At the same time, Chai-an and Eun-bin struggle to understand the strange abilities developing inside them. Their confusion grows worse when Eun-jong suddenly appears and questions them about the previous night, including whether they know anything about the mysterious Wunderkinder. Frightened, Chai-an and Eun-bin throw him out. But then they realize something dangerous. They accidentally left the camcorder containing the fake ransom footage at the greenhouse near the dumping yard. As Chai-an rushes to retrieve it, Eun-jong secretly follows her. Now convinced that Chai-an may be immortal, he decides to test his theory in the most terrifying way possible, by trying to kill her himself. Realizing she is being hunted, Chai-an desperately runs through the greenhouse while Eun-jong closes in behind her. There, a scrap collector discovers the camcorder and accidentally watches footage showing Chai-an's death. Eun-jong quickly buys the device to keep the truth hidden before turning his attention back to her. Moments later, Jae-an arrives searching for the camcorder and witnesses something horrifying. Using his supernatural powers, Eun-jong destroys the entire greenhouse while Chai-an is trapped inside. As the structure collapses around her, Chai-an suddenly disappears again, teleporting onto a fishing boat near China without understanding how she got there. At the same time, Jae-an's strange magnetic powers spiral out of control. His hands become stuck to his steering wheel, then his phone, until his frustration causes everything to suddenly detach at once. Elsewhere, Kim Palho, a member of the religious cult, witnesses Eun-jong using his powers and immediately recognizes him as patient 3972. And while Junemo stares at GPS data showing Chai-an somehow appearing in China within seconds, Chai-an herself awakens aboard the unfamiliar boat just as armed men prepare to shoot her. Meanwhile, far away from the chaos, Dr. Ha Won-do pays a visit to Director Choi, his former subordinate at Hwando Lab. The reunion ends in cold blood. Nam Sung-gyu secretly meets Dr. Ha Won-do in prison and confronts him about the Child of Eternity, revealing that Eun-jong has returned to Haeseong. This triggers a dangerous escape plan, and Sung-gyu helps Won-do break out so he can begin tracking Eun-jong once again. Back in Haeseong, Chai-an survives her earlier near-death encounter and suddenly appears before Eun-jong. The shock overwhelms him, and he reacts violently, pushing her away as if rejecting the reality of her return. Their uneasy reunion hints at a shared past filled with unanswered questions. Dr. Ha's followers, Juran, Horan, and Palho, discuss Eun-jong's return and growing instability. Old rivalries surface, especially Palho's jealousy toward Eun-jong, while Dr. Ha orders them to capture Chai-an, now identified as a dangerous new variant. Chai-an wakes at Eun-bin's house and reveals she can teleport, leaving Eun-bin stunned. Meanwhile, Jae-an begins experiencing strange side effects of his own power, getting his hands stuck to a flower pot and later his feet glued to the floor. He refuses to believe what's happening, even as his abilities worsen. At City Hall, Chai-an confronts Eun-jong in public, causing chaos and forcing him to escape under the guise of work. Chai-an refuses to back down and pushes Jae-an and Eun-bin to chase him, pulling them deeper into the conflict. The mystery intensifies when Jeonbok identifies Director Choi's body and receives a suicide note claiming Dr. Ha is innocent. A flashback reveals Choi being forced by Juran to extract information about the Child of Eternity before being driven to kill himself, proving a deeper conspiracy is at play. Meanwhile, Dr. Ha is haunted by nightmares of the Hwando lab fire and memories of illegal experiments on children. Police later investigate the Hwando church, unaware that Juran is secretly blocking access to victims trapped below. A horrific incident follows when a police car crashes after one officer's face begins to melt. Chae-in, Robin, Jae-in, and Eun-jong are forced into a chaotic rescue where their powers erupt uncontrollably. They manage to save one officer, while another nearly dies before being pulled from the wreck, and the situation ends with an explosion narrowly avoided. Afterward, evidence is being erased, and a cover-up begins to surface. Chae-in starts believing they are meant to work as a team, but Eun-jong rejects the idea. Still, he begins to suspect the church's involvement and grows more cautious. Palho later confronts Eun-jong at City Hall, accusing Dr. Ha of treating them as disposable experiments. Chae-in also asks Eun-jong to explain their powers, but he refuses and only hints at something called the Wunderkinder. However, he secretly saves her when Palho tries to attack. In the end, Eun-jong decides to keep Chae-in close and brings her into a City Hall-backed operation as a temporary volunteer. While she happily shares the news with Jeonbok, the episode closes with Dr. Ha waiting silently for Jeonbok at her home, signaling that a much darker phase is about to begin. In a revealing past where Dr. Ha first meets Juran, she recalls being hearing impaired before he gave her hearing aids, and how their bond formed during the Hwando lab era. The memory quickly darkens as the lab fire breaks out, with Dr. Ha instructing Juran, Haran, and Palho to hide until his release, setting the foundation for the Wunderkinder project and their lifelong loyalty. After Dr. Ha is released from prison, he immediately restarts the Wunderkinder program and orders his followers to continue the search for the elusive Child of Eternity, pushing the experiment into even more dangerous territory. In the present, Dr. Ha, Juran, and Horan confront Jeonbok. Dr. Ha accuses her of funding the experiments under her alternate identity, Madam King, while Jeonbok defends herself, claiming she believed the project was meant to help children. Tension escalates as Dr. Ha demands answers about the Child of Eternity, but Jeonbok insists the child is already dead. Juran uses her powers to force information from her, though Dr. Ha remembers the truth that the Child of Eternity survived every experiment and could not be killed. A flashback reveals Eun-jong witnessing brutal experimentation on a young boy. Unable to take it anymore, he intervenes using his powers, an act that triggers the devastating fire that destroys the lab and changes everything. In the present, Eun-jong wakes from a disturbing nightmare, accidentally activating his powers in his sleep and causing chaos around him. Jeonbok, meanwhile, realizes Dr. Ha manipulated her during their encounter to extract hidden truths about the Child of Eternity. Outside, Horan spots Chae-in attempting to use her powers to reach the Northern Lights, revealing her deep personal desire. The next day, Chae-in brings Jae-in and Robin to City Hall for a cleanup drive and asks Eun-jong to help them train. However, he remains distant and irritated, refusing to guide them directly. The situation escalates when members of the Church of Salvation arrive at City Hall, angering Eun-jong. He removes Chae-in, Robin, and Jae-in from the area and orders them to train on their own, forcing them to repeatedly trigger their powers until they learn control through experience rather than guidance. Elsewhere, Dr. Ha orders the elimination of Bongpal after an experiment fails, while Juran begins to fear they may all be discarded once they outlive their usefulness. Juran, however, remains loyal and continues the search for the Child of Eternity. Junemo later shows Jeonbok's CCTV footage revealing Dr. Ha and his followers near the restaurant, where Chae-in is seen testing her abilities before Palho is ordered to kill her only for her to teleport away at the last second. Jeonbok then comes face to face with Horan, who is using hallucination powers to interrogate her. Horan accuses her of abandonment and again demands answers about the Child of Eternity, but Jeonbok resists her mental attacks and survives the encounter. Alarmed, she urges Junemo to locate Chae-in immediately. Meanwhile, Chae-in, Robin, and Jae-in begin understanding their abilities more clearly. Chae-in learns her teleportation is triggered by heightened emotions, Robin discovers his strength activates under emotional overwhelm, and Jae-in realizes his power is linked to nervousness and dishonesty. Palho eventually arrives at the junkyard where Eun-jong is leading the cleanup drive, leading to a sudden confrontation. As chaos erupts, Chae-in accidentally teleports between locations, bringing Robin into the fight. Eun-jong reveals Palho is also a Wunderkinder, explaining his overwhelming power. During the battle, Chae-in instinctively hugs Eun-jong and teleports him away as Robin, pushed to his emotional limit, manages to block a deadly attack. Chae-in and Eun-jong end up beneath the Northern Lights, where she is critically injured and begins to die. Back at the junkyard, Robin continues fighting for survival while Junemo searches for Chae-in and discovers Jae-in stuck to the ceiling, exposing the chaos spreading through their group. In a desperate final moment, Eun-jong attempts to revive Chae-in beneath the glowing sky. Against all odds, she suddenly awakens as the episode closes, leaving her fate and the consequences of the experiment hanging in uncertainty. In the aftermath of chaos beneath the Northern Lights, where Eun-jong is stunned as Chae-in returns from death in his arms, the shock is overwhelming, and he soon collapses. Chae-in, shaken but alive, returns to the junkyard and finds Robin unconscious, confirming the battle has left deep consequences for everyone involved. Tensions rise among Dr. Ha's circle as Horan mocks Palho for the damage he sustained fighting Eun-jong. His condition worsens as a defect in his arm spreads, hinting that the experiments are beginning to fail them. Juran tries to maintain control, while memories of Eun-jong from their past add emotional weight to their fractured loyalties. Chae-ai and Robin bring an unconscious Eun-jong home, only to discover his body is covered in unexplained wounds, revealing how far his powers and past trauma have pushed him. Concern grows as the group begins to realize none of them are safe from what is happening to their bodies. Meanwhile, Jaeyeon and Robin go out to buy medicine for Eun-jong and discuss Palho's brutal mission of hunting down defective variants. Fear spreads as they begin to understand they may be next targets. Eun-woo, on his own investigation, discovers blood at the junkyard and becomes increasingly suspicious of the strange events unfolding in Haeseong. That night, Chae-ai stays by Eun-jong's side as he suffers from violent nightmares, calling out for his mother. Her care becomes one of the few stabilizing forces in his fractured state. Jeonbok notices Chae-ai sneaking out and heading back to Eun-jong's apartment, where she leaves him medicine, deepening the emotional bond between them. The next day at City Hall, Chae-ai, Jaeyeon, and Robin insist on staying with Eun-jong, refusing to be separated. Despite his resistance, Chae-ai pushes for them to act as a team. Horan watches from afar, growing jealous as she senses Eun-jong drifting toward Chae-ai instead of his past alliances. Eun-jong takes them back to the secret training location, forcing them to trigger and control their powers once again. But Horan interrupts, trapping the trio in hallucinations while confronting Eun-jong about the Child of Eternity. He resists her influence, freeing his group and rejecting her demands, forcing her to retreat. Later that night, Eun-jong finally reveals key fragments of truth to Chae-ai. He explains that the Child of Eternity could not die and suggests that Chae-ai may share the same condition. He questions whether she had a childhood heart transplant and connects her existence to Jeonbok's involvement in the Hwando lab experiments. Disturbed, Chae-ai confronts Jeonbok, who eventually admits that the Child of Eternity survived the fire but suffered severe brain damage. She reveals that his heart was transplanted into Chae-ai when she was terminally ill as a child, linking her life directly to the experiment's aftermath. Shaken, Chae-ai searches through records of the Hwando incident and learns about the orphan children and unethical experiments, leaving her emotionally devastated. She begins to spiral, blaming herself for everything happening around her. Eun-jong quietly follows her as her guilt deepens, while Jeonbok discusses the junkyard incident with Eun-woo, further confirming that powerful forces are covering up the truth. The next day, Eun-jong grows concerned for Chae-ai's mental state and checks on her through Jaeyeon and Robin. That night, she visits his apartment, and the two share a rare moment of calm as Eun-jong reassures her that she is not responsible for what happened in her past. Meanwhile, Robin delivers food from Jeonbok, triggering an emotional breakdown in both Chae-ai and Jeonbok, revealing the weight of guilt carried on both sides. Chae-ai ultimately refuses to forgive Jeonbok, insisting they both must live with the consequences of their actions. In an unexpected turn, Chae-ai and Robin move into Eun-jong's apartment, further entangling their lives. Eun-jong continues training them, using extreme methods like increasing Chae-ai's heart rate with caffeine, which helps her better control her teleportation. Chae-ai briefly teleports with Eun-jong to a beach, though she still struggles to fully master her abilities. Later, she secretly plans a birthday surprise for him with Robin and Jaeyeon, showing how deeply their bond has grown. On the night of the celebration, Chae-ai shares a quiet moment with Eun-jong, asking about his mother. He admits he does not even know if she truly exists, revealing his emotional emptiness. For a brief moment, they connect deeply, and Chae-ai promises to stay by his side. That trust is shattered when Eun-jong suddenly betrays her, injecting her with a drug. Chae-ai loses consciousness and is taken by Dr. Ha's followers. In the final moments, Eun-jong reports everything he knows about Chae-ai and her abilities to Dr. Ha, confirming the connection between her powers and her heart condition. Chae-ai is taken away in captivity, leaving her fate hanging in darkness as betrayal reshapes everything once again. Jaeyeon jokes about starting a church like Dr. Ha's to make money, but the mood quickly shifts as he grows uneasy about Chae-ai's disappearance. He later witnesses her being taken away and overhears Eun-jong speaking about her powers, confirming that something far more dangerous is unfolding behind the scenes. Inside the Church of Eternal Salvation, Palho is praised as a miracle worker after seemingly restoring a disabled man's ability to walk, strengthening the cult's influence as donations flood in. Meanwhile, Eun-woo warns Jeonbok that Dr. Ha's network is deeply tied to the church, revealing how far the conspiracy has spread. At the same time, Dr. Ha prepares Chae-ai for a forced operation, intending to remove her heart. She awakens mid-surgery and desperately escapes, using caffeine to trigger her teleportation ability and flee the lab before it's too late. Eun-jong is shown reflecting on how Dr. Ha previously manipulated him by promising information about his mother in exchange for cooperation, revealing the emotional leverage used to control him. This adds weight to his past betrayal of Chae-ai. Chae-ai suddenly reappears in Eun-jong's apartment and confronts him for what he did. She pleads for help in killing Dr. Ha, but confusion and betrayal linger between them. A flashback reveals that Eun-jong had secretly given her coffee sachets before her capture, hinting that he never fully abandoned her. Their situation worsens when Chae-ai accidentally teleports back to Hwando lab, where Dr. Ha recaptures her and forces her onto the operating table again. He manipulates her emotionally, convincing her that her sacrifice is necessary and even tying Jeonbok to the same guilt. Outside, Jae-eun struggles with fear for his family and clashes with his wife, who refuses to believe the danger they are in. She also reveals disturbing ties to the church's growing influence, deepening his internal conflict. Horan escalates the situation by using her powers to mentally manipulate Chae-eun, pushing her toward accepting sacrifice. Meanwhile, Robin learns of Chae-eun's kidnapping and becomes enraged, determined to rescue her no matter the cost. As tensions rise, Jeonbok begins uncovering the truth about Nam Sung-gyu's connection to the church, while Eun-jong quietly prepares to abandon everything at City Hall. Robin even attacks Eun-jong in desperation, but is quickly overpowered. Despite everything, Eun-jong ultimately breaks down under guilt and decides to save Chae-eun. He gathers Robin and Jae-eun, forming a rescue plan that leads them toward an all-out infiltration of the Church of Eternal Salvation. Inside the church, chaos erupts as protests break out outside and Jun-emo secretly helps them break in, revealing that he was also one of the orphan children saved after the fire Eun-jong caused years ago. This revelation connects Eun-jong's past to the present conspiracy in a painful way. In the final stage, Dr. Ha begins using Chae-eun's DNA in experiments while attempting to complete the surgery, but Eun-jong arrives just in time, stopping the operation and saving her from death. A fierce battle breaks out as Robin and Jae-eun fight off guards nearby. Chae-eun regains consciousness and is saved at the last moment. Overcome with emotion, Eun-jong apologizes and kisses her to raise her heart rate, allowing her to activate her teleportation ability. However, before they can escape fully, Palho, Jiran, and Horan arrive, launching a final attack on the group. The episode ends with Chae-eun returning to the battlefield, ready to stand with her friends as the conflict explodes into full-scale war.